Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to this case study with Sister Zeba Chaudhry, right? Is her name?
Yeah.
Chaudhry, who's a teacher from London. So I'm really delighted to have her here. She's someone who I regard. Sometimes you have clients who just fly through, right? Others sometimes worry the coach, right? And Zeba doesn't mind me saying that she was a tough nut to crack in the sense that I was like, okay, this is going to push my skills to the limit because she's a teacher and I'm a teacher and I know how demanding teaching is and how demanding the time is already. And so I'm really delighted that she's come through and she's had success. I'm really excited to ask her some questions and hope it's going to be of great use of people watching today. So first of all, Zeba, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us about your kind of station in life right now and what it was. What were the circumstances which led you to enrolling on Vista?
Okay, so assalamu alaikum. My name is Zeba. I'm a science teacher from London. I joined Vista towards the end of my master's. So I was a teacher for a couple of years and then I decided to take a break from teaching. I took 1 year out where I did a master's and then I chose to come back into teaching. And throughout my sort of teaching career, I've consistently worked between 55 to 70 hours a week. And I knew coming back into teaching, I was really, really conscious of my mental well-being and my work-life balance. And I knew the nature of the job wasn't going to change and the demands of my time weren't going to change. I just knew that I needed support in being more efficient and more effective. So I decided to do the Vista Time Mastery program to kind of make myself more efficient and and get my work-life balance on track.
Fantastic. So you then enrolled on Vista, and we'll talk about which aspects helped you most. But what were the outcomes now that you've come at the end? What did you achieve? And I know there are some things which surprised both of us in terms of what some of the outcomes we weren't even aiming for. But yeah, what would you say are your main achievements, main outcomes which you're really happy with coming out of Vista?
So when I was setting my initial goals, it was more about my working pattern and being able to do work within a fixed time limit. So having a starting time and an ending time and sticking to that, and wanting to minimize the amount of work that I was doing at home and limiting that to a couple of hours just on a weekend maybe. And alhamdulillah, I have actually managed to achieve that and I have maintained that. But despite that, I've had lots of other benefits from doing the program. And I think the biggest transformation I've had is just gaining clarity and a lot more perspective and a shift in attitude and mindset and how I view being busy or just like stress in general. So I think through the program, I've had a lot of clarity and a lot of perspective and a massive attitude change, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think, when we talk about attitude and clarity, sometimes because it doesn't feel concrete, like, I don't know, earning money or achieving a certain particular outcome, sometimes it's hard to, it's easy to underestimate the value of that. Can you describe why that's so important to you? Like what having that new clarity, how has that resulted in positive outcomes in your life? Why is that so useful? And how has it changed things for you in terms of your actual day-to-day reality?
I think generally I'm happier. And I think having a mindset where you're more proactive rather than reactive and clarity in terms of your mission and purpose and how you choose to respond to situations, that's definitely been a massive shift for me. And things that I've kind of felt guilty about for a long time, choosing to see those things differently. And so I think I've got a much more healthier attitude towards work, towards sort of family, towards lots of different things. And generally, I think moving forward, it's been quite a big growth curve for me. It has been really challenging, but I definitely feel like I've made a significant amount of progress in a very short amount of time.
Mashallah. Yeah, no, and I'm really happy with, because I remember it was a tough beginning, right? And I think you were grappling with the tools and you.
I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical.
But it's great. A lot of my case studies recently have been skeptical clients who came in, and they're the best case studies because it shows people that, yeah, look, you can come in and doubt, but the process is powerful. I was going to ask you, because one of the things I was most impressed with is like you're quite self-critical, and you've got high standards on yourself, and so I was really happy to see your self ratings in, as a relative, as a daughter, as a teacher, as a Muslim. Like, I think nearly all of them had improved. So do you want to describe why you've or how you've improved in you can pick some of the areas you want to highlight, and how is it that in such a short space of time you were able to level up in those areas?
So I think as a Muslim, I have definitely leveled up in terms of routine and having, I mean, obviously you have ups and downs and peaks and troughs and things like that in terms of your iman. And, some days you're able to do more acts of worship than others. But I definitely feel like I have made progress in terms of my routines and understanding the value of how my acts of worship affect my day-to-day, sort of how my day goes, and whether I can sort of win the day and whether I'm successful on a given day. In terms of as a teacher, as I mentioned earlier, I had left teaching for a year and then come back into teaching. And coming back into teaching, I falsely thought that I would hit the ground running and it would just come back to me straight away. But in light of the pandemic and just all the changes that schools have been through, I found it quite tough, despite being someone who's been teaching. This is my 6th year teaching. So I genuinely found that really challenging, and feeling myself as a teacher, like as a successful teacher in the classroom, and as sort of a leader in the department as well. That's taken me a really, really long time. And there were moments where I really questioned whether I wanted to continue as a teacher, and why I even joined the profession in the first place.
Yeah.
And every teacher has those like low moments.
Yeah.
Where you question whether it's really sustainable and whether you want to kind of keep working towards burning out. And so some of the tools that I've learned through Vista have radically transformed my working habits. So things like
let's transition to that. That was going to be my
okay.
question. So
right.
I mean, and that's interesting. So have you, because I've had teachers in the past come on, and people, professionals who have who had similar existential doubts and questioning their profession and deciding to be an entrepreneur. But I think with you, correct me if I'm wrong, you've decided teaching is the right profession for you, and you've kind of which is quite nice, because some people hearing this, it's almost becoming quite fashionable to kind of leave your profession, be in trouble, especially in teaching, right? And so maybe for teachers listening to this, or professionals listening to this who are doubting whether this is right for them, whether they should leave it, how and then you can maybe segue into the tools which helped you. What helped you realize that no, actually you are in the right place, and you had to just maybe change your mindset and approach to what you were doing?
So when I left teaching for a year, that was my first sort of opportunity to figure out if I wanted to be a teacher. And my year out gave me some space and some distance, and I actually missed teaching. And that was the reason why I came back. I came back because I wanted to be a teacher again. I just wanted to work in a system that favored me being as effective as possible, without sort of infringing upon my well-being or my personal life. So yeah, I really do believe in teaching. I still remember the reason why I became a teacher, the books that inspired me, the reason why I joined the teacher training program that I joined. And yeah, so there were lots of reasons why I wanted to stay. It was just a question of whether it was feasible and whether it was sustainable. And yeah, that was more about self-preservation and, trying to preserve your well-being more than anything.
And so when you started out, I remember you were just coming as a new term, and this is a great, this is going to be a great question and answer for those people who are in busy jobs, right? And there's little professionals as busy as teaching, especially in the first term. And so I remember, the concern was when you're, in those weeks when you were at school, and nonetheless, you still made tools helped you organize your time so that you were able to not just do your work and cope, but also work on your time management, your dean, and all the other things which Vista was encouraging you to do. Which tools helped you the most in organizing your time, first of all?
So in terms of tools, I think Leverage Ladder was really good, and writing a mission statement. It took me a number of weeks to kind of get my head around that and what that means. And then all the stuff about deep work, doing a time tahara and time tracking, that was quite a critical moment for me in the program. I made a number of sort of fundamental realizations about myself and the way I worked. And I was able to pinpoint things that were reducing my productivity and why I wasn't able to be effective. So what the barriers were. And now I'm trying to sort of actively work towards removing barriers that stop me from being as productive as I would like to be. The attitude module, I think I did that at a very timely point where I had quite a lot going on with family, and that changed my perspective on a particular situation. And so, yeah, there were lots and lots of different things that I
really
came across
out the program. It sounds like you've done nearly all the modules, right? So that's quite impressive. And what's interesting is that in your situation, and I'd like to congratulate you on this, you could have easily said that I don't have time for this, right? And it's an ironic excuse because it helps you uncover time. So what would you say to someone, like I said, you're skeptical yourself? What would you say to someone who's like, I don't have time to learn all this, right? But you've obviously, despite your busy job, you've actually done more than people who've got actually, very relaxed jobs, or stay-at-home people, or entrepreneurs. And so what advice would you give to someone who's worried that, well, how on earth did you get the time? How would you answer? How did you get the time to do all what you did in the program, despite you having such a demanding job?
I just made it a priority. I just knew that, one, I had invested a certain amount of money into this, and so I wanted to get value back. And I would only really get that value if I invested and took it seriously. And that was one of the things that I was concerned about, because I didn't want this to be, a series of videos that I watched and then never actually applied. It was important to me that things were sustainable, that I could actually apply the tools and the techniques and the strategies. That was very important to me. I didn't want this to be like an isolated thing that I just come and watch once a week, attend some calls, and then it has no relevance to me throughout the week. It had to be practical and it had to be applicable to my life. And so trying out the tools, tracking it, monitoring it, being accountable, being part of a little cohort of people who are sort of on a similar journey at different points. It was nice to be part of a community, and also having you, Ustad, like hold me to account when I wasn't on top of things definitely did help. So yeah, it was good.
Fantastic. And it's interesting, you talk about different aspects of the program, and as you know, not many Muslims do this type of thing. It's quite rare. It's quite a specialist thing. I'm one of the only coaches in the world that offers this type of service. And so for many people, they find it hard to understand the difference between like a course and something like a coaching program here. What would you say are like the 3 biggest reasons why you've had so much value from Vista, which is different to just a standard course or reading from a book or trying to do it yourself? What would you say if you were to talk to a friend or someone else and you'd say, look, this is different, you've got to try this because 1, 2, 3?
It's hard to articulate because I've just had a mind shift change, and I don't think you can get that with a standard course. It's not just about consuming content and then producing something to evidence it. This has changed the way I see things, and that's not something that you can get with just any old program. You really have to be committed to it. You have to have the right intention. I wanted to change. I've been struggling with time management, with work-life balance, with working ridiculous hours for a number of years, and I just wanted to find a way to make things sustainable. And I knew that the nature of the job wasn't going to change, and it was just me. I had to change. So yeah, taking personal responsibility and recognizing that your actions, you can do a lot to change your circumstances. You can do a lot to change your situation, whether that's within your sort of personal life, within your relationships, within your work. People have a lot of responsibility and a lot of personal choice. We choose how we respond to situations. And so that mind shift and attitude change, and it's all sort of centered within Islam, and it's all, it all comes back to being Muslim, and having tawakkul in Allah. And so I feel like I'm able to articulate sort of my purpose and my mission, and it has taken me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And it has been a process, and I've made lots of mistakes along the way, and I've learned lots of things. But I'm really pleased, and I just want to kind of continue and keep sort of the upward trajectory and keep going.
That's fantastic. And I wanted to finish, but I mean, like, I think I was going to ask you, I don't think I even know this, from your time Tahara, how many hours did you save then in the end? Like from what the hours you were working to what you managed to cut it down to? Did you work out how many hours you've saved?
I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it was pretty ridiculous. I think in the first term I was working close to 70, and now it's probably around 55, 50
wow.
maybe.
That's going to be a nice headline, right?
Something like that. I don't know if it's 100% true, but
no, that's good enough. No, I mean, it's significant. And
it is significant. And I think the biggest thing is stress. I was quite stressed at the beginning, and I've always been really conscious of burnout. And I felt quite stressed when I came back into teaching. And now it's been half a term, and some of the same stresses still exist, because they're just like part of the nature of the job. But how I choose to respond to them, and how I perceive them, and where I draw the line, and having sort of boundaries and clarity.
Those beginning weeks, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, I remember you coming on the calls, and I remember you were pushing, like it's like, no, I can't do
I was very negative.
Yeah, it was tough. So what do you think was the biggest factor in helping you shorten those hours? Was it the mindset? Was it the mission? Was it the time to horror? What was the kind of, was there one thing in particular which helped you actually protect your hours? Like, what do you think was the biggest factor in helping you on that particular front? Because I know you've made great progress in other areas like your relationships with Dean, but just on that front, on the hours, from going from 70 to, especially when you started, like I said, no, I can't do it, I'm skeptical. And I know there's calls when, we even enlisted the other students and they were telling you as well. Was it the peer pressure? Was it a particular module? What do you think was
I think for me, it was the deep work, the concept of deep work and shallow work changed a lot for me. I recognized what work I needed to do that created value, and what kind of work was taking up a lot of my time, wasn't necessarily creating value, causing me quite a lot of stress, and trying to kind of mitigate and deter those things. Also, sometimes when you're conscientious, you want to tick all of the boxes and follow everything through, because you want to see, but actually picking your battles and deciding what battles are worth pursuing, and what being a lot more selective and mindful of yourself, really, and protective of your own time and well-being. So mostly it is an attitude thing, and it's coming back from like these tools and techniques. I've been sharing some of it with my students as well. That have been like really demotivated and disorganized. So it's been good.
That's great. No, I mean, what you've shown is like like yours was, you had a complex case and a difficult, challenging case, and that's why, I mean, it took the whole 8 weeks, it took the whole process, it took many of the tools, and it wasn't like one aha moment. It really developed. And so I think that's a good case. I'm happy to have that. It's nice to see that. And it's nice for people who are in challenging situations, or maybe in challenging jobs where they're used to working 78-hour weeks and they can't see the other end. It seems like something which is impossible. So I think inshallah you'll be an inspiration for them. So my last question to you, which I always ask, is that there'll be some people watching this who are right on the fence, who are, maybe they've got a strategy call coming up, maybe they're thinking about booking a strategy call, they've never done coaching before, so it's something they're quite scared. They're scared about the investment. They're worried, is it going to work for them? You've been through that. You had those fears. You had those doubts. You're skeptical to begin with. What advice would you give to those people?
Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. You've got nothing to lose. I've been on different sort of mentoring programs. I've been on a really intense grad scheme. This is one of the best things that I've done in terms of my career, and personal life, like one of the best things that I've done. And yeah, it's an investment in yourself. And at the beginning, it may seem quite like an upfront high cost to pay. Is it really worth it? and you're right to feel skeptical, but you will get out of this as much as you put in. And sometimes making that investment is you saying, well, I've made a conscious decision to change, and I want things to be different. And so it's you making that commitment to yourself and investing in yourself. So yeah, do it is my advice.
Brilliant. That's, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really interesting case study, and it's always been one of my dreams to crack a teacher. If I could get a teacher through this and they, full-time teacher, and then they get hours back, then I know this really does work. So alhamdulillah, thank you for being that guinea pig. Thank you for going through the process. Thank you for being such a great student. Thank you for sharing your story so others can benefit. And jazakallah khair for watching. And there'll be a link under this video if you're watching wherever you are. There's probably going to be a link to book a call. Feel free to. And jazakallah khairan once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.